Hi, everyone, and welcome today to Celebrity Customer Experience, Riffs with me, Jill Raff, where we riff on anything and everything from employee experience to customer experience, because I guarantee you that your employee experience will be the leading indicator of your customer experience, good or bad. You get to decide. That's the great thing about it. So when you create that true connection culture within your business, the real relationships, the accountability, that's where you're going to see the difference. That's where your employees are going to be delivering that great celebrity customer experience to your paying customers. And I really feel that this all is the foundation of what hospitality is about in the entire industry. So I want to thank you for joining today, sharing your information, your ideas, joining me with my guest who is all about the experiences, all about understanding what hospitality means, why we called this one the hospitality mentality. So with that segue, I'd like to introduce you to Josh Liebman, my guest today. Hey, Josh.
Hey, Jill, thanks so much for having me. Great to be here. By the way, I love the intro music as we got into the episode. I found myself bopping around with that. So
awesome. Thank you. I know I find myself doing that every single time. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Hopefully everyone does. Like just everyone to know a little bit about you. Josh Liebman is the guest expert consultant. His educational background includes his bachelor's degree in theme parks and attraction management, along with a master's degree in hospitality and tourism, both from the University of Central Florida. And Josh has helped visitor attractions like theme parks, zoos, aquariums, all of those kinds of fun places that we all want to go to, whether it's on vacation or taking our families or just as adults to be big kids. He creates the more wow moments for their guests, really resolving difficult complaints and diving in so that they can drive more loyalty to their business. And he's worked for some top attraction operators in the world, including, but not limited to, Walt Disney, of course, Universal Florida, Merlin Entertainments, and Cedar Fair. And Josh has really been an integral part of openings of multiple attractions across various leadership capacities. Right now, he's, there's so much more. They worked with a lot of leading brands, Ritz-Carlton, Four Seasons, Waldorf Astoria. You can't get better than that. And he's applied all of this to what he's doing now. And soon we're going to be lucky to have Josh's book coming out, The Hospitality Mentality, will be at a bookstore near you by the end of the year. So, Josh, do you want to tell us about that now, or do you want to wait to the end? Up to you.
Sure, happy to talk about it now. Yeah, it's been a project I've been working on for quite some time. So, like you mentioned, it's called The Hospitality Mentality. Got one of the early copies right here in hand here, just nice. To use it as a little visual aid here. And it, all the things that you mentioned in my bio there are a ton of experiences, stories, as well as data and research and anecdotes and things that I've seen from my clients, things that I have helped the organizations that I've worked with to be able to implement. And I like to say it's kind of like a new way of thinking about customer service, or it'll change the way you think about customer service and the way that you interact with those of you who are serving on a regular daily basis. And all of it ties into setting a high expectation and then exceeding that high expectation. And then what do you do once you've exceeded that? How can you use that to turn that into guest loyalty? Those who are coming back, they're coming back to visit you again. They're coming back to buy from you again, as well as being an advocate for your business. So sharing positive word of mouth. So everything that relates to the guest experience or the customer experience in any industry ties directly back to the success of the business. And that's what I aim to very much prove in a number of ways throughout the book.
I love it. And I think that's our goal, to aim to improve that across the industry and to really use those ideas that you have behind your book, which I'm sure we'll touch on a bit today, because earlier on, I actually had an episode, and I can't recall who the guest was at the moment, but we talked about hospitality being a verb, right? And not just a noun. And it truly is a mentality. There is something to the energy, the spirit, the way we approach life and the way we approach our work for those people who are in the hospitality industry, who really want to give, who want to uh, take back those warm feelings, that when people come to visit, or stay or whatever, depending in the hotel or a theme park, whatever it is, that they leave with those kinds of really great feelings. So Josh, let's go back for just a quick minute and talk. Give us a little capsule of your backstory. How did you get involved in hospitality world, and specifically in the attractions world?
Sure. So I've been in I like to say, the attractions, tourism, and hospitality industries for a little over 18 years. Started as a ride operator on my favorite roller coaster at Cedar Point, Sandusky, Ohio. Right after I graduated high school, I turned 18 and packed up my little Honda Civic and drove to Sandusky and lived there for a couple of summers. And from those early days, I really fell in love with the guest experience. I had been a consumer of the product, you could say, for many years leading up to that. I love roller coasters, I love thrill rides and adrenaline, and then being able to see it from the operator lens and being able to see these people have these amazing experiences that I've come to know and love so well. Loved that aspect of it, and then also fell in love just with the business side of it as well. I'm just thinking there's so much that goes into making a large amusement park, for example, just be able to open for the day. So that really got my gears turning. I moved to Orlando. I went to the University of Central Florida. Their hospitality college, the Rosen College of Hospitality Management, has an excellent theme park management program. Soon, it's actually going to be an official bachelor's degree that you'll be able to get in theme park management. But for now, my degree is in hospitality management, but with a concentration in theme parks and attractions. So usually I just tell people I have a degree in theme parks. While I was in Orlando, I worked for Disney. I worked for Universal. I had the opportunity to open a couple of parks as well in various leadership and management capacities. And then once I graduated, I went back to grad school, got my master's in hospitality and tourism, where I was really able to explore not just the practical and kind of operational elements of the business, but very much the academic and the research side of it, while at the same time working in the business as well, and being able to see, okay, here's what these research scholars have determined all this data. Let's take this and let's implement this in real time, and being able to actually now see how it benefits the guest experience and certain things, like whether it's exceeding expectations and driving loyalty or resolving complaints. That there's a lot of hard numbers that really back all those up, that tie into how this can truly help the business as well as help those individuals as well who are coming and having the experiences. So from there, I had the opportunity to once I finished grad school, I found a consulting firm focusing in luxury hotels and resorts. So up until that point, I was all theme parks, and then really kind of took this pivot into the world of Ritz-Carlton and Four Seasons and Waldorf Astoria. And it was really cool to be able to say, okay, I know how Disney does it. I know how Universal does it. Now I can see how Ritz does it, and Waldorf, and just these top tier lodging brands, and seeing where all these dots connected. So I was able to kind of merge some of that together, while at the same time going back to what those academics were saying, and the data, be able to put together a number of different frameworks for delivering the guest experience. So today I get to work with amazing organizations like zoos, museums, aquariums, theme parks, family entertainment centers, trampoline parks, really anything under the attractions and tourism umbrella, and get to work with them to be able to enhance their service standards that drives the guest experience forward.
That's amazing, and quite a breadth of experiences and knowledge, and across different levels of service in the industry. So it's very fascinating. I've heard you say a couple of times already in this short period of time we've been speaking about exceeding the guest expectations. And I think that's a huge goal, and a great way to approach business. And I wonder today, because you hear a lot about and experience customers' entitlement, how difficult they are. Their expectations are off the chart, not only of what they expect to happen to them, but their expectations of kind of like who they are, a bit of entitlement. In fact, there was just a plane just recently, I think, that had to land somewhere else and divert because the first class customer had a fit because they didn't get the meal they wanted. Mm-hmm. And, so this is kind of the environment that we're in today. So I'd be really curious to hear what you think. To me, I think this is definitely a problem that's going on right now in the hospitality industry. How do we meet those needs? How do we exceed those expectations without, or I should say, while keeping the customer in check, so to speak, so that we're all realistic on that? What is your approach, since you talk a lot about exceeding? Like, how do you do that, but keeping it in check with the expectations and the reality of customers' attitudes today?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like there's a lot that we could really unpack with this. I think a lot of it starts with acknowledging and understanding what your customer, what your guest's expectation is, and really being able to look at what are the building blocks that lead up to that. So they expect friendly service, they expect efficiency, they expect safety, they expect their meal to be the correct meal, right? In that particular instance, and then knowing, okay, what are we doing to ensure that we meet the expectation? We look at this as our guest experience checklist. If we know our guests are expecting all of these things, this is going to be our core approach to making sure we can just open for the day, have a successful operation to make sure we meet their expectations. But to your point, we also want to exceed those expectations. The challenge is that oftentimes, and particularly in hospitality and attractions, the expectation is very high. It's very high because if it weren't, we wouldn't have any guests, right? If you are considering going to, we'll use a theme park for an example, you have so many other alternative options that you could do with your time, with your money, aside from going to that theme park. So naturally, there's the competitors that probably more closely align with it, and then there's indirect competitors like, does a theme park compete with a movie theater, or does it compete with a public beach, something like that? Well, okay, I expect my experience of going to that theme park, it's going to be better than going to the movies or going to the beach. We can look at it that way. And then even pulling back and saying, there are so many other ways to occupy our time, where now everyone's competing with Netflix and with Apple TV and with Hulu and with Amazon. I mean, there's no shortage of different streaming services on there that keep us home, right? Keep us on our couch.
Quick on demand.
Exactly. And, they've taken a lot of friction out of the ability to watch a movie, to watch a TV show. And when we recognize that, when we realize, okay, here's a person that has visited, and, we can stay on the theme park, as an example, they made a decision to come here versus all of those alternative options. Mm-hmm. Didn't need to be here. They had so many other ways to occupy their time, occupy their or be able to use their time and dollar. Once we start to recognize that, then we can focus on, okay, we want to make sure we've got this sort of neutral playing field. We can say this is the expectation, and we want their experience to be over here in satisfaction. We want it to be above that. So what are we doing to make sure that we meet those expectations? And then what are we doing to go above and beyond? Mm-hmm. And a lot of above and beyond happens in the intangibles. It happens with the employee experience. And I think this will probably tie into probably where I imagine this conversation will go is, are the employees personalizing the experience for their guests? Are they being not just as enthusiastic, but even more enthusiastic than the guests that they're serving? How well are they anticipating their guests' needs, of recognizing to say, hey, the employees of your organization, they're the experts, right? Sometimes guests or customers, they might try to say that they're the experts. They might try to kind of push that a little bit, but the employee, the team member, needs to take that opportunity to say, you know what? I know how you can have the best experience possible. You might not ask me how to have the best experience possible, right? We recognize that our guests don't know what they don't know. They don't necessarily know which questions to ask of what's going to help them the best. So we anticipate their needs. And then are there opportunities to create, what we call wow moments, something that really is a surprise and delight moment that takes the expectation over here, and then the experience, well, I'm going to put it off the screen, right? Or you can, it's that far off from it. Another key point of it as well is recognizing that, yes, we have this expectation. Yes, we want to exceed every single guest's expectation, but we acknowledge that sometimes we're going to have guests down here who are dissatisfied, and they're going to have an experience that in their mind falls below the expectation that we have. So we need to build in service recovery into the guest experience strategy. It can't be an afterthought. It is about recognizing that, sometimes we do fail our guests in the experience that we deliver. And rather than striving for 100% satisfaction, or I should say, rather than striving for 0 complaints, we recognize we can proactively train our team members to be service recovery superstars, really. And then, and this is what I love about the data that supports this, is a term called the recovery paradox, which is that if somebody has a poor experience, let's say they complain about it and it's handled properly, their satisfaction after going through that process is even higher than if they never had that service failure to begin with. So that's what gets me really fired up. People say, I want 0 complaints. I'm like, no. You want more complaints, because these are more opportunities to actually go above and beyond, exceed expectations.
Yeah. So just to highlight a few things that you said that are completely in alignment also with, what we believe at the Jill Raff Group and the work that we do with customers, so far mainly in the restaurant industry, but the same hospitality. It's, and that, you talked about anticipating their needs. And that's something that I was raised in across multiple industries that I've worked in. And of course, the foundation being in the restaurant industry in that. And so that's probably why, for me, it doesn't matter what industry you're applying these skills in. It's the same thing applies when you're talking about human beings. And ultimately, it doesn't matter what we're selling. We're selling to people. We're a people business. It's not about a real estate business or burger business or something else. And I think that anticipation of their needs, being proactive versus reactive, is really the key. And thinking ahead, like you're playing chess or any sports for that matter, it's a strategy. It's always thinking, if I do this, then this might happen. And if that happens, then what would I do next? And so it's having those conversations in your head in advance. It's being led by leaders who teach you what to do in these situations and when this happens. But to really be able to anticipate in advance, I agree, is super important. And that will prevent a lot of the problems to happen or a lot of friction, but also agree that, and I've read the reports similar to what you mentioned, that it actually is a benefit for businesses when they recognize there's been a problem, and it's how they fix it. So it's not what you do, it's not what you say, it's how you fixed it. Are you there? What's the attitude? What's the presence? And there was, and I don't remember which one, but probably what you're referring to, the study that actually says people will give you better reviews. People will feel better about your business afterwards when they see that you cared enough to try to make it right, when you cared enough to treat them in a human way, a kind way, an open communicative way to solve whatever the problem is, to come up with that resolution. So much so that to me it was kind of crazy, and I don't remember where I read it or what the exact report was, but they were saying that there was this company that actually would have their people mess up on purpose. Now, I think that's going a little far, but it was a way that gave them that excuse to get the benefit of the recovery and how they did it. So, I think, okay, try to do it right. Understand, accept that we're all human and there will be mistakes, and then recover. But I don't think you should try to make those mistakes. But it really, I think, punctuates that whole idea and point about we're all human. And so we're all going to mess up. And whether it's at work, whether it's in a theme park or at a hotel or a restaurant, or it's with our partner at home or with our child, it doesn't matter. We're going to mess up. and to mess up is human.
Yeah.
And it actually makes us more relatable. And I think that's why the satisfaction scores go up, because we're more relatable and we're just like, okay, we're all human. We messed up. So it's just owning that. And what do we do? What do we do from that point forward? So I love that. And certainly the places that you've worked in the past have these wonderful kind of core values about how to approach all those things. And I think that comes back to leadership, which is so important in all of that. So how are we doing on time? We're doing pretty good. We're starting to get a little close, but I'm curious, with these different philosophies and different techniques and applying them in your specific markets, how are you finding some of these things that we've talked about affecting productivity and engagement, and what kind of results are they getting from that by your people really addressing these factors?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a guest experience benefit to it of seeing higher satisfaction, higher retention, higher loyalty and online reviews, and then there's the employee experience aspect of it as well. Many years ago, I was asked to build a training program for a client, and I would deliver it every single month for every new employee that they hired, and on average we hire X amount of employees per month, so we can anticipate this amount of new employees in every training session. And over time, the number of employees in my training sessions dwindled because they weren't hiring as many employees, because they weren't losing as many employees.
Nice.
So they could actually tie it back to some of the things in the training and the tools and the tips and tricks and the tactics that we talked about of delivering a great guest experience. It influences the employee experience as well, and satisfaction. And a few years ago, I was talking to a group of hospitality students and was talking about just my career background and things. And one of them raised their hand and was talking about or was asking me about a time that I was overseeing a guest communications team in a theme park, and they said, isn't it just exhausting of just hearing complaints all day and having to deal with people who aren't necessarily satisfied? And I said, it's a good question, and you'd think so if your job is getting yelled at for a good chunk of the day, that could chip away at your morale.
Mm-hmm.
But, and this probably ties back to the recovery paradox, where there's guest satisfaction, there's employee fulfillment as well. I would just remember those drives home from work where I felt like I had more energy at the end of the day than I did at the beginning of the day. Of knowing of just like this is the impact that I made on people. And it works with service recovery, and it works with just exceeding expectations and knowing that, hey, here was a family who was on vacation and they were celebrating a birthday, celebrating an anniversary, celebrating family reunion, or just there's on vacation, and we've got this opportunity to create a special experience for someone. Yeah, they're coming for the rides, they're coming for the shows, they're coming for the characters, XYZ. What they're leaving with is the experiences that they had that were delivered by team members, by the human beings of the business.
Yeah, I love that. And actually that just really highlights the topic title that we chose for this episode, because you have that hospitality mentality. That's why when you would drive home, you would feel so good, because you lived into that mentality. It really brought out those natural components in you. And I do think that people who work in hospitality, all ends of it, really are a different breed. I think we're our own type, and I think we're made in a way that really enjoys connecting with other people, really enjoys giving, and that appreciation of what we feel when we know we've helped someone.
Yeah, I think that the key word there is we're made to feel that way. Because some people say, well, natural service providers, but they're born that way. I don't think that's true. I think they're made. I think it is a developed trait and skill that is cultivated and it's fostered over time. When I think about like I'm doing service recovery training and talking to team members, there was a time when I was really bad at it. And I think one of the reasons why I feel that I can teach it, and I can kind of maybe I don't want to say impart some of the wisdom, but be able to help, frontline team members be able to get the skills, because I know what it was like being bad at it. And I know what it was like to actually sort of, see the feedback loop of saying, okay, this didn't work so well. Let's change this a little bit next time. Okay, this worked better. What if we did this? And be able to continue to grow that and foster that skill. I definitely think it's made. I think it's learned. I think the intention needs to be there. It needs to be that needs to be born and kind of at the core. But the skills itself are developed and learned.
100%. And that's where you really need to find companies who appreciate and have that open communication as a core value, and have everyone buy into that, whoever's there, to understand that the communication goes both ways, and that there has to be what I call an education, not just a training of a specific skill, but a true education to understand what's involved, and to role play, and to really level set every employee so that they are capable and qualified and feel confident to be able to address a complaint, a conflict, whatever it is. People, look, we all come from different circumstances. We all have different backgrounds. We all have different experiences with conflict. Some shy away from it and will not engage in any way, and others embrace it. And maybe even look how we look at the word conflict. I mean, for me, yes, there's friction there, but I think there are nuances around certain word choices that we use too. And once we, I think, break some of that down and show people that it's just about open communication, it's just asking those questions and learning how to speak back in a way that we can be heard, they can hear us, we can hear them. And really all of what you said, I think is really key of being able to dissolve some of that friction by having those right skills, and we mess up, coming back again. So, okay, I shouldn't have said it that way, but what do I do next time?
Yeah, exactly.
So as we kind of start to get towards the end here, you've had so many great experiences. I would love for you to share with everyone just maybe one or two of your top, what you would think of your top insights or knowledge that you've gained from all your experiences, and something that would be kind of what would be some learned practical strategies, a skill set, anything like that you feel you would put on the top list of what you learned and how you grew, and what you could impart to someone else that they could implement right now in their life, regardless of what level they're in, of how they could grow and really develop themselves as a person, but within a company of choice.
Sure. So I'll start by kind of giving you what I feel like is the philosophy behind the hospitality mentality. And I touched on it a little bit here, but I can kind of deliver it in, pretty concisely here. Is that it's when you recognize that your guests don't need you, and that they could do anything else aside from doing business with you, whether that's visiting you, whether it's purchasing from you, whatever that is, engaging in your services. And then it's when you want to show the guest or the customer or the client that you want them to see that you know that as well. That right there shifts the mindset a little bit from I'm waking up, I'm going to work, I'm clocking in for my shift, and and then I'm leaving, and then I'm coming back tomorrow and I'm doing it again. Of recognizing this person doesn't need to be here. They could have done anything else. And I want to deliver an experience that they appreciate that side of it from me. Mm-hmm. And then as far as practical tools and insights to be able to start to deliver that is to empower your team to be able to do just that, is go beyond the checklist. When we talk about anticipating needs, you can very easily check the box and have the same interaction with people over and over again, and it meets expectations. But when we talk about going beyond the checklist, it's anticipating needs with enthusiasm, creating more of a personalized experience for as many guests, as many customers as you're able to, and then encourage them to go even further beyond to create surprise and delight experiences that deliver an experience that leaves them with a memory that lasts long after their visit or their time with you, or what it is that they came expecting to buy, to experience, to purchase, etc.
Yeah, great. I love it. I put up here, I'm just going to list it again. If anyone wants to get in touch with Josh, reach out to him on his LinkedIn. It's his name, Joshua Liebman, Liebman is his last name. That is up on the screen. And yeah, I just want to say thank you, Josh, for your insights. We all love attractions. We all love theme parks. It's just, I think, a part of who we are and how we're made, and that excitement, that wonder, that dream, that fantasy, stepping out. And it's an exciting space. I'm excited for you. It's an exciting space to live in, for sure, as that part of hospitality. And, I loved our conversation. It's so many of the philosophies, so many, the principles really are the underlying ones under the EX to CX brand, the employee experience to customer experience. And in order to deliver that great customer experience, it's really making sure that we do right by our employees from the beginning, from the communication, from the empowerment, the engagement, teaching them how to respond, how to engage, especially, I think, in the attractions industry, where you really have a lot of face-to-face. You have so many more customers that are truly face-to-face with their customers, their end customers. So you shared a lot and gave us a lot to think about. So thank you so much. Any last parting words?
Yeah, I would just say, we know that the best customer experience begins with the best employee experience. And I would even take that a step further to say all the things that you do to deliver a phenomenal customer experience, things that I talk about in the book from the customer, the guest experience side of it, you can implement them apples to apples into the employee experience to help influence and enhance the employee culture as well.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why it's like you and I are yin and yang. We, work together because my approach is exactly like that, but I start from the inside out process. So it's starting with the employee experience to affect that great customer experience. And similarly, you can just look at it kind of with a mirror, that if you want to have that great customer experience, it cannot be done unless you make sure first that you have a great employee experience. And we're definitely in alignment with that as well. And one of the reasons that I love this space, and coming from the restaurant hospitality world and having experienced so much with the other, travel and hotels and everything, I could talk about it with you and anyone, right? We could talk about this stuff all day, and we love it. So thank you again, Josh, for joining. And it was a great episode of Celebrity Customer Experience. And the key at these places are to give that to everybody, so everyone there feels like a celebrity. So, thanks again, Josh. And I will speak to you soon.
Thanks.
So thank you, everyone, for joining. Stay tuned. Please tag Josh, write comments. We will get back to you. Tag me in the comments if you enjoyed the session. If you have any follow-up questions, please let us know. Otherwise, we will see you on the next Celebrity Customer Experience. And thank you again for joining today.